Hello Munchkins and viewers alike, it's me Munchie and welcome to a rescue introduction story. Today we have a total of 4 animals to talk about. They all came in at the same time. But first, if you're new here, welcome on in. My name is Munchie. I am the owner of Munchie's Place for Homeless Pets. My rescue is foster-based, and we help out small animals like hamsters, gerbils, and mice. We take in these guys whether it be bad situations, owner surrenders, you name it, but we want to step in when we can. My rescue recently just added a new foster home, and so one of these guys is going to be heading on up to that foster home, and let me share with you what exactly happened. Because I was contacted about 1, and I ended up getting 4. So let's talk about that. So right here, as you can see, I have one of the enclosures that these animals came in, but let me tell you this story first. So, it all started with one of my old coworkers who now works at Petco. They contacted me asking me if I would be able to take in a hamster that is stargazing that has neurological issues. And I said I would, and that I would come in, pick up this one hamster, which I was confirmed it was a dwarf hamster. So I went down my little carrier to Petco hoping to pick up this hamster. And I was told a little bit more details. So first, the hamster was bought at supposedly that Petco, and it was returned a different hamster. So there's some issues going on here where it seems like they just wanted to dump a hamster that they might have purchased somewhere else on this poor Petco, where they recently purchased a hamster, which could have been the replacement hamster for this hamster of which they are now dumping. But they pretty much dumped it on Petco. Petco has no recollection of this animal because it was not the same coloration. It was supposed to be a Sunfire Hungarian hamster, and this hamster looks like it is Campbell's Russian dwarf hamster. They knew automatically that this was not their hamster, so when receiving it, these people were apparently obnoxious, which is unfortunate because what I was told was these owners were given the proper care, the proper information about updated care, 40-gallon breeder tank, you name it. But for some reason, they returned this poor hamster, and this hamster started to stargaze. And because it was stargazing something very severe, they took it in to the vets, where the vets did some tests, and it turns out there is some neurological damage. And so they believe it was hit very hard or was flung very hard. And hearing that is just the worst thing in the world, to be told. Unfortunately, this hamster they fear was not adoptable at all, was not sellable at all, and so they decided to contact me, and I'm so glad I came down. While I was down there, I was told of one other hamster that they would gladly give me, and they said that she's been on the sales floor forever. So this lady looks like she's about 8 months to a year old. It is another Russian dwarf hamster, and this one is aggressive. Why, oh why do we always end up with aggressive hamsters? But I do specialize in aggressive Russian dwarf hamsters, and they've all been Russian dwarf hamsters. None of them have been Roborovskis or the Hungarian hamsters. They have always been Campbell's Russian dwarf, and it's because I made a video about this. It is how they are bred and how breeding mills keep the non-sellable ones, and they constantly are breeding them, which unfortunately is embedded into their bloodline. Really bad genes with bad temperaments, and or the environment of which they're raised in. But there's a difference between environmentally aggressive and just naturally born with it aggression, which is unfortunate. They have this weird body language where they will freeze, they'll tick. I call it like a little tick where they look around. A lot of them, for whatever reason, have squinty eyes. They have that squinty eye effect. But yeah, they showed me the old gal, and she was aggressive, but apparently she's been slowing down, but that's only because of age. That is not because they are taming her, even though I was told they thought that they were taming her, but just knowing and being experienced in this, no, that is them slowing down at a specific age because they're getting very old. But she is a big gal, and as soon as I saw her, I said, you know what? She's a chunky monkey. So guess what her name is? Chunky Monkey. The original hamster I came in for, I don't have a name for her yet, but we'll get to more about her in a bit. But then I was told they just got in some surrendered pet mice. 2 females. And I kind of sighed because I'm like, oh boy, what's going on with this, and I was told that they came in this, so this is theirs originally. As you see, it's a 10-gallon tank with a topper, which some people think that just one 10-gallon tank is fine for two. That is kind of outdated care. People want to put them in 20-gallon longs if you're having them in a pair, or even just a single male. But they did have a tank topper. However, as you see here, there's really no enrichment. They had a cup, they had a water bottle, which I am using, and then I don't know if you can see down here, they also came with habitat cleaner because they are very stinky, but if you keep them in something as small as this, of course it's gonna stink very quickly. So they had that. I mean, that could still be used. There's nothing really bad in there, so you can use this. You just gotta be aware to wipe it down afterwards. We don't know how long ago these mice were purchased, but this is a new tank. It still has the 10-gallon aquarium tank label right there. They didn't even bother peeling that off. There is the bridge that connects here to down there. There is not a lot of bedding. Could be that they were planning on getting rid of them anyways. There is a 5-inch wheel here. Tiny, because they were massive. They were huge. And so you know they're adults because they were pretty big, but they were running on that. And so I have a feeling that they have some discomfort or spine damage. Moxie! Hey, you're in the video. Everybody loves Moxie. Remember Moxie, everyone? Anyways, there is absolutely no hides, no chews, no nothing. It is a sad world. So they were just dropped off, and you want to know the reason why they were dropped off? It makes me so mad. Okay, here we go. They were dropped off because their purpose in life was not a feeder snake. No, it was a science project. Hey, let's buy some living animals because we want to have a science project for their kids. Parents, are you kidding me? So it was not a very good interaction, I was told, because they were just going, really? Really? You bought all this and you got them for a science project, and because you're done with them, you're just gonna return them? At least they returned them to the place they got them. Could have dumped them anywhere. They could have released them outside, which you're not supposed to do because they can't survive outside. They just don't know because they're domesticated. They're not wild animals because we domesticated them, so they don't have the natural instincts to be able to tell. Plus, they don't belong here in the first place, so don't put them in an environment of which they never came from in the first place. Oh, okay. So at least they dropped them off at this Petco store. But really, it bothers me. It's like, hey, we don't want to care for it anymore because its purpose is done. Just like how I hear people say, oh, yeah, we're gonna get a puppy and then it's gonna turn into an adult. And then once it gets old, we really don't have a use for it anymore. We can't really do what we could do with it when it was younger, so shelter. This is why I get so frustrated when people are like, why do you get frustrated upon people's choices? At least they're treating the animal right. It's the action of which you were supposed to take responsibility for this animal and you're passing it off to somebody else because you just don't want to care for it. They could have gone, they could have gone as feeders. They really could have. They are mice. Unfortunately, that is usually their fate. But for these guys, at least they were brought in, at least the owners returned them. But I wish school and educational systems did not teach kids, hey, it's okay to bring in a goldfish, a living creature, to your science fair for a science project or just for school show and tell day. Don't bring a living animal to ooh and ah people if you really don't take care of them. I mean, it's cool when people want to do it for educational purposes, but then afterwards, usually the educators bring home the animals. That's why the reptile man always came to my elementary school. He wanted to show his animals off, enrich and delight us, and to educate us. And he still kept the animals at the end of the day. These people show, tell, discard. That is my problem here. So I decided these poor mice did not need to stay at the back of a Petco store waiting for almost nobody to ask for, hey, is there any adoptable female mice around? Nobody's really doing that, but I highly encourage it because Petco does have an adoption system, and Petco's system takes in surrenders. PetSmart, not really. There are PetSmarts that claim that they do, and they just put them in their adoption program, but PetSmart's policy is taking their non-sellables and listing them them in their adoption program. And they don't really advertise it. At least Petco advertises a lot. And the amount of Petcos I go to often, because there's not really one near me, and I travel a bunch, especially when it comes to the rescuing and the surrendering and then the moving around the foster animals from foster home to my place to the adopter's place, you name it. I go to a lot of Petcos, and PetSmarts, there's not really a lot around here, but I do try to take time out my way to go to PetSmart. But unfortunately, they don't have a good adoption program. But PetSmart does partner with local shelters, and some shelters just send their small animals to them to put on a big table for display to show people, hey, these animals are adoptable. Think about them first. Yes, there is places where you can find these animals, and I hope that this also encourages you guys out there to go and look yourselves. You might have to call, you might have to go in person and be like, hey, do you have any? But it's worth it because you're not putting money in the pockets of the Petco and PetSmart. You are paying either a no fee or a small adoption fee of $4 to $5 depending on the species. At least with Petco, they do put that money into their Petco Foundation, which is their charity. So that money that you would be spending on that pet, which is a very small fee, would go into there. Whereas PetSmart, they usually list them for free, no adoption fee, you're good to go. Let's talk about the one that I was originally gonna go in there for. I found out why this poor animal was probably abused. So, I was warned that this animal is nippy. No, this animal's not nippy. Unfortunately, we do have two aggressive dwarf hamsters. This poor little girl latched on to me. I don't know if you can see it's stopped bleeding. Yeah, you probably can't see. Poor little girl latched onto my finger here, and I slowly, because I wasn't really expecting it, I just lifted her up and she hung. She hung there. She wouldn't let go. And now I understand why. This poor hamster was in a home with children. And you probably could guess what I'm about to say next. They probably put their hand down. She latched on. She wouldn't let go, so they flung her. And she hit a wall. Because there's no explanation to think that somebody just hit her on the head with a blunt object. There really isn't. The explanation that I feel like what happened, especially since it happened to me, and I just kind of had that reaction of like, I want her to let go, but I'm not gonna fling her. Unfortunately, she wouldn't let go, and so I just had to wait there and kind of jerk my hand. And she let go. She was most likely flung, and she hit a wall very hard. And the owners decided to replace her. This is why I made the aggressive dwarf hamster video. They are wonderful watch hamsters, everybody. I've adopted out Spitfire in the past. I had Oscar the Grouch, which unfortunately he passed away due to complications and old age. And then we also had the very first foster animal I ever had in this rescue that's a small animal was Daisy, Destructo Daisy. She was a hoot. They are hoots. They are so much fun. They love to chew, and they have this weird quirky personality where, like I told you, it's that tick. You can see the tick, the I am kind of irritated tick. It's their tick. I have yet to name her. She has a very unique coloration. I have seen this in Roborowski's, but I have also seen this in Campbell's Russian Dwarf Hamster. For winter whites, even though this hamster is white, that does not indicate that it's a winter white. Winter white's coats, they tend to be a gray color, and then in the wintertime when temperatures get colder, they do turn almost a pure white, but they do change. This one, body type, and just the way the stripe looks and just the way the face looks and the shape definitely looks like a Campbell's, not a winter white. But I'll name her, just like I will name the mice. So the mice, I do have something to say about them. These mice are so friendly. They are very nice. They're not scared or skittish. So they were handled, and you would expect they would be because they were a science project that probably was presenting people these animals. And I don't know where they came from, what happened to them, what was this exact science experiment? Was it just them running around in a maze trying to find cheese? I don't know. They are very curious, and they don't get scared when I'm around, which is great. I love it. So they're going to be very easy to adopt out once they go up for adoption after their quarantine, because these guys get quarantined for a couple weeks or more depending on their temperament, personality, and health. But these guys, they do have different coat colors. You gotta be paying attention. One of them is a lighter beige, and then another one, even though it does have kind of like that heather look to them, they both have the heather look to them, beige, and then one is a more dark gray. And so that's how I could tell them apart. Plus the beige one looks a little bit smaller and skinnier in the face. I will be thinking of names soon. You will be seeing them on Instagram. Now, before I go, the original plan was the newest foster home to my rescue is only fostering dwarfs. So I was going in with the intention of only letting her foster that dwarf. And that dwarf, unfortunately, knowing that she has Stargaze and she has this issue where she falls on her back, she has neurological damage, I feel more comfortable watching her and keeping an eye on her. So I think I'm going to send her Chunky Monkey here soon. So at least there is a dwarf. So that is where we're at. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, hit like to show support. Comment down below with anything relevant to today's video. And if you're new here, would like to become a part of the Munchkin family, please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!